you find people like you in Miami with this, similar needs, right?
Mhm.
Obviously, they're the ones we've written are big clients with big exposures and they're targets for litigation, and so you have to have an offense, just not a defense. But since I started the insurance company, and I don't know when I first came up with the title insurance preacher, but I'm sure that that's what you saw, right? Because
I think it fits you well.
I have been saying the same shit forever, right? And it's just so common sense and fundamental. And 1-1, I've told you and I've told my crew, 1-1 last year, a year ago, we went direct bill and did all the stuff that I'm doing because I don't believe that insurance professionals get it, right? They just want to keep providing what the insurance companies in the big ivory towers want to do, which is half the coverage or partial coverage, fine print, and that's not what insureds need today. They need a partner that shows up and, any claim is painful and, disrupts your life. And so your insurer should be a good neighbor and they should make it less painful, not more painful. And I'm a consumer first, right? And I think you get that too.
Yeah, so am I.
You can't just keep selling people turds and not doing anything about it. And so, again, Ferdy's here in Salt Lake. We've known each other for a long time. He's one of the very, very few people that, get it, in my opinion. And again, I haven't done all this to continue to pound my head against the wall with insurance people that hate me, right? You're on the other side.
Well,
People talk bad about me. They say shit that ain't true.
Oh, I mean,
Anyway, that's some buyers, they listen to that. Other buyers that need solutions, they're breaking through more all the time. And again, there's more people that need us now and going forward than ever because of the industry's path they've chosen. And they could change it in a heartbeat. They could cover everything, become a good partner, but for whatever reason, they won't do it.
Yeah. I think, Rick, what makes you and Prime so authentic is the fact that you will always say the same thing. So that's kind of like when it's like a head coach of a team. You've set the vision, you've set the mission, and you've set the standard. And the standard with Prime is excellence. And that's the one thing that I love is that you guys actually care, right? As a retailer for 18 years, for the 10 years of my life, the first 10 years, you're out there just chasing business and selling quotes, and then claims happen, and then, you're doing the best that you can to call an insurance company, and then they pass you on to a third-party TPA or some desktop, adjuster, and then it's like, dude, like nobody's resolving the issues for my customer.
Right.
So I failed a lot, and I got my ass kicked a lot. And I remember the first, the first major claim I had, unfortunately, was a former NFL football player who died. He was killed in a common area of a condo association, and he was shot. And I remember that the association back then was being sued for insufficient lighting.
Right.
But we kept going back, right? At least me. I even drove by the property, and I'm like, man, but I thought they had enough lighting. And I'm like, looking back, I'm like, well, it's unfortunate that this gentleman was killed. I think he put himself in a pretty bad situation. I'm not going to say names out of respect, but I don't think that really the condo association was fully negligent if you actually look back. I think the case was probably mishandled, and the facts were not, were not gathered up properly, and I don't think it was attacked the way it should have been. But the one thing that I've always said about you guys and Prime and you is that your risk management and your people risk management, in my opinion, is first class. It's best in class business.
Well, what I would tell you is that, like Sears, Roebuck, and Kodak, they're companies that thought they were best in class and they were too big to fail, or, they had such a footprint. And, we strive, but you can always do better, right? And that's why I tell everybody that we insure. It's like, dude, all you got to do is do your best, right? And if something bad happens, that's all you can do. And then you can learn from it and not have that accident again. Or, and the plaintiff's lawyers are awesome at, somebody puts themselves in a bad position, whether it's a drug deal or they're, whatever, and they end up injured, and the lighting, doesn't meet what some lawyer thinks. If you would have had more lighting, this wouldn't have happened. I call bullshit on that, right? If, you have young ladies walking to their car in an underground parking and the lights are burned out and some stalker can, maybe. But, when you put yourself in a bad position and you complain about the light, I don't believe that's a case you should settle, right? And the reason that became, a trend is because somebody settled some bullshit lawsuit.
Yeah.
Right? Lighting is one factor of many. But if you're doing a drug deal, that's 80% of it. It ain't the lighting. In fact, you picked the corner that didn't have good lighting because you're trying to hide. So, again, it's plaintiffs' lawyers are very aggressive, think outside the lines. I say a lot recently, why would a big national law firm take and sue somebody for $5 million and a jury in Miami give them zero? That kind of shows how outrageous they are. What reputable lawyer would demand $5 million when he can't get one? And it's because it works.
Yeah.
They demand $5 million, and then the adjusters and the people who really don't care, it's just a process, they pay $500, and they'll argue, we saved you $4.5 million. Right? We got out of this for $500,000. Well, if it's a zero, no, you paid $500,000 you shouldn't have paid. So, again, it's a partnership. I couldn't have fought that claim and got a zero if the insured thought 500 was a good deal, but that's something we managed over 3 years, right? And anytime you change directions at the last minute, you're going to cost yourself a lot of money, like in the Super Bowl or the World Series. If you don't follow your plan that you've laid for the whole year and everybody thinks, and you make up a play, that's normally going to fail. And
like you said, Rick, and it's about having good partners too, because it's like you said to me a couple of days ago, it's like you've got a $5 million lawsuit, right? And you know that morally and ethically, which I know that Prime practices, like, nobody takes pride in trying to screw somebody. We're just protecting your assets and your money in a respectful and professional manner. Why should I pay a claim? Why should I ever transfer financial, why should I give you money for something that I'm not negligent about? But like you said, about going back to a real partner, it's like, they're demanding $5 million just because some attorney saw $5 million for the most part. And then you get to this, doorsteps of the courthouse, and he calls your attorney and says, well, we'll settle for 1.9.
Right.
And now, like you said, it's your Achilles heel, because you're like, hold on a minute, dude. I don't want to pay $1.
Right.
Because we know for a fact, morally, ethically, and professionally, I wouldn't be in this courtroom if I didn't feel that we were wrong. Because if anybody knows Rick Lindsey and anybody knows Prime, if they're wrong, we cut a check and we move on. I mean, why are we going to spend more time and money and energy trying to go back and forth and point fingers when at the end of the day, we've looked at the facts? You have a great team here led by Dave. And if Dave says, hey, we lost, and it happens, shit's always going to happen, right? It's like you always say, don't underwrite hoping for the wind not to blow.
Right.
But your partners need to understand that. And it's even good for them to like partner up with a good insurance company, because why would they want to tarnish their brand by looking, like kind of like, we're just going to settle and let me just get it's actually egg on your face too, because at the end of the day, if you're not wrong and you're not negligent, why would you settle? Like it's like your path of least resistance.
You're too far away from it. You don't, again, when I started, we typed policies with typewriters. And next door to my dad's MGA was USF&G, which was one of the best reputation companies in the country, all 50 states. But they had an office here, and they had the underwriter, the risk manager, and the lawyer. Mm-hmm. They all had in-house lawyers at that time. Then, over time, it became, they looked around, they said, why do we have all these lawyers, right? our in-house lawyer hires an outside lawyer. We can just get rid of our in-house lawyers and save money, right? And I think that is the root of all bad insurance deals, And the best case or easiest example is storms. So after a storm, everything goes up, right? Price of water, price of labor, price of materials. So, if you go write checks right then and you get shit fixed fast, you're going to spend more money, but you're going to save money in the long run, right? But that's not how insurance people think. It's like hiring law firms. They'll negotiate with them, and they come to us all the time. And it's like, if you'll give us all your work, we'll give you a discounted rate.
Yeah.
And I don't want your discounted rate. I want your best players, right? It's like forming a football team and, trying to negotiate for discounted rates. You're not going to win with
shitty
the
players.
Cheaper players,
Yeah.
right? So, again, it's, to me, everything is the opposite. High risk, I'm not sure the high risk that people think is high risk is actually high risk, like helicopter skiing, right? You got 100% of the world, most of them are never going to go helicopter skiing. The people who can go helicopter skiing ski, and they choose to do it. So they're already risk takers by nature.
Yeah.
And so, if you don't manage claims proactively and in a partnership, when they take your money and they think, well, he won't have a claim, and then you do, and it's a doctor from New York that makes millions of dollars a year, the standard system would pay millions and millions, and lawyers would make millions and millions over years of defending. Last one we had, we call the family with the owner of the business, and we manage it through, and we resolved it for $30,000.
Yeah.
But that's because you never let them get to a lawyer. They can always go to a lawyer, and before we paid them the $30,000, they had a lawyer come into the picture, and he said, I think you should pay him $60,000. And we said, we've already done this based on their out-of-pockets. We're willing to be reasonable, but we're not going to pay you money because we weren't liable. But your out-of-pocket expenses, we want to take care of. And so, again, your offense, you're driving it based on the facts, and your insurance company has to agree with you, and you have to agree with the insurance company, or we end up on the 1 yard line fighting, and our opponent sees it and they win. So it's an art of managing the claims. Everybody wants to say it's underwriting. That's part of it. But if you can collect money and issue paper, but you can't manage claims, you're wasting your time.
Yeah, and that's the problem, Rick. And I think underwriting is an art, but I think as insurance evolves, right, and AI comes into place and all these fancy words, at the end of the day, you're underwriting people, right? It comes down to people risk management. It's like, again, we were talking last night, like, Fern, I don't care what we insure. It's like when people call you, hey, Rick, do you insure X, Y, or Z? I'm like, yeah, I insure anything.
Right.
I want to know you. I want to know how, who you are, what's your business plan, and what's your process, and what's your approach. Because at the end of the day, too, look, I'm an advocate for America, right? I love capitalism. I love the private sector. I love, we are the best country in the world. And I do believe that there's a lot of companies out there that want to do it the right way, right? But they've got to invest in leadership. They got to and really believe in this. And if, like I tell, I've had this conversation numerous times with clients is, unfortunately in the insurance world, you get put into this massive risk pool, and you're just a little hamster on a wheel, and you could be operating right and doing everything right and investing. In some cases, I can tell you, I had some truckers where they actually put their money where their mouth is. Right? They'll say, "Hey, you know what? I'm going to invest in good driving. I'm going to invest in telematics. I'm going to invest in even paying and compensating right our drivers a little bit more money and creating incentives for them to come home. Right? But Rick, this system is all broken, right? And it's led by fear.
Right.
I've got some really good friends of mine that are attorneys, and and I could tell you the lawyers just do a great job of creating fear, right? They send you this real complex and fancy language. I'm going to sue you, and I'm going to take it all away. And when you read the language, half of it is bullshit.
Right.
Like, really? You're just going to, no, dude, like, I haven't done nothing wrong. This ain't Cuba. We're going to fight this. Here are the facts. And the minute that you actually don't allow the bully to take the playground for you, the lawyers even slow down, like, hold on a minute, I just can't bully this guy.
Right.
But in most cases, I understand where insureds, when they're just kind of left alone, right, in the retail market, and they don't have a good partner, and they see that letter come in, they're just panicking because all they can think about is like, man, like, I'm already paying for my payroll. I'm already paying for the insurance. I never budgeted for like these defense costs, and they all just panic,
And
right?
I think I have
And
insurance,
the root is fear.
but I don't have coverage for
this.
this part of it.
Correct.
And so the fear comes back because you didn't buy the right insurance, and it actually costs you more money.
Correct.
And the lawyers benefit from a bad team, just like on the playground. The bully's there, and we stick together, the three of us, the insured, the insurance company, and the lawyers we use. Based on the facts, we can stare down the bully, and he's trying to find the weak person in the partnership.
Yeah.
And again, that's why you make good decisions early on. The biggest question producers, ask, and mainly the bigger ones, what's your appetite, Fernie? And I always think that's that. And when you tell them, oh, we like restaurants, or we like bars, or we like trucks with under. To me, that's the stupidest answer ever, right? Because why would you like trucks 5 and under, or trucks 5 and over, or restaurants? Doesn't it matter who the owner of the
That's
business
the most important
is?
part.
Right? What kind of person, not what kind of class of business. So I would say, I don't write classes of business. I write classes of people. Good
Correct.
people. I can insure them doing anything because we're not trying to screw each other. We're on the same page. We're going to, if we're on the 1 yard line, you're going to do your job. I'm going to do my job, and we're going to stick together. And if at any point one of us gets nervous, right, we should be talking about it before we're on the 1 yard line.
Yeah, there should be a
Right?
plan.
Because you know what's coming, right? If you're involved in your business, which, most people pay insurance premium and then let the people, it's like, oh, what happened to that? Well, I don't know. I reported it to the company. They're handling it. I really haven't heard much about it. That's sending a message to the lawyer, the insurance company, that you really don't care or understand how it could affect you down the road.
Correct.
You pay a $5 million claim that you could get a 0 on. That's going to go on your loss run, and now that's going to affect you for the next 5 to 10 years. And so if you can't
And that's, by the way, Rick, the retail market indirectly promotes that, right? Because they don't care. Like, who cares? Like, they had a loss. You know how many meetings you're in, and like, oh, but they had losses, and like, it's almost like the retailer's jumping for joy. And I'm like, dude, like, that kind of sucks, because now you've compromised the integrity of your client, and now you're gonna go out to market. And half these insurance companies don't actually realize they're just looking at some loss run.
They know they're going to get more commission. That's
and then
what
the
they're
owner's
after.
saying, but dude, F you, because you should have never paid the $500,000. Right. And I think you and I both know some of the clients that we've insured in the past. These are guys that are fighters that have built their business on blood, sweat, and tears. Right. And they don't want to be in the room with a bunch of weak men and weak women, right? They want a real partner, because they're willing to risk share. They're willing
They have a reputation.
They have a reputation.
Being tough but professional. And again, that's what
and they're
you
all
want
professional.
Insurance company.
But they're just not going to hand, high net worth, specifically family offices and high net worth clients. What they want is professionalism. They want service, and they want process, right? And these are guys that are smart people. They're at because they know what they're doing. But when it comes to insurance, they don't want to deal with it. How many times I get screams like, I don't want to deal with this, and they're right. You shouldn't have to deal with this. You should be growing your business and focusing on what it is that you do.
You know what we are? We're stable masters, right? So a business is like a horse. You buy a colt and you feed it, and it's got a lot of shit coming out the back end, right? That we should be their trusted partner, and we take care of the back end of the horse. You take care of the front end, but you have to be aware. You can't totally ignore it. You have to see that we're managing this back end of the horse as you're feeding the horse. And if you can't manage the back end of the horse, then you can't grow a business, because eventually the claims, whether you're trucking or a water park or
Real estate owner.
yeah, it doesn't matter, slips and falls, and stuff's going to happen. We pay claims that you know there's fault on our side, and we could fight, but we're not going to. But 80% of them, when you deal with good people, are frivolous, and you should fight. And I think that's kind of at the root of I hate insurance. And I can say that to anybody, and I know it's true, right? There are people who say to me, "Oh, I love insurance. It's the greatest thing." And I'm like, "Really, really? You're like our cigar buddy down in Miami with the $3,000 cigars." I asked him, "Oh yeah, I have claims," and I'm like, "So do you have a problem?" "Oh no, they pay, and I'm good." Anytime somebody tells me they have claims and it's all beautiful daisies and roses, they're lying to you.
Yeah.
Because insurance companies don't make your claim better, they make it harder. And what we're supposed to do is ride in like the Lone Ranger and write a check so you can fix your roof faster. Even if the market's 20% more, as an insurer, you should price that into your catastrophe, because you got to make happy customers. So the name of the podcast that we're on here is What I Know. Everybody hates insurance. So,
and they do hate insurance, and it's always because anytime you walk into a meeting and you ask them why you hate insurance, the number one answer is because they don't pay claims, and then they'll give you, in some cases.
Well, but that's almost a test question. If I ask people, do you hate insurance? Because I do, and I'm a consumer. I know how to fix it. So, that's really what we're bringing to the table is you're part of the problem if you hate insurance, because you're not asking the right questions about, okay, I don't think I'm ever going to have a claim, but if I do, tell me what it looks like and tell me the fine print that you're going to break out when I do have a claim. So let's do a mock claim. And so buyers need to make better decisions. Insurance companies should offer broader coverage, not narrower and narrower coverage with more exclusions and higher deductibles and more fine print.
They're just looking to de-risk themselves. It's like,
I know, but they actually are adding more risk on by feeding the lawyers. And Florida shows that from every storm. My first storm was Katrina. Now California is showing you that it isn't just coastal, right? It's wildfires. Convective storms is now something that most insurance companies are adding to their
models.
Middle of the country,
yeah.
because tornadoes and hailstorms and ice storms, they don't want those either.
Well,
right? They don't cover earthquake, they don't cover mudslide. So most people, when they add their deductible, their underinsurance and all the fine print, they're more uninsured than they are insured.
Yeah.
And that costs them way more in the long run. And the lucky recipients, the beneficiaries, are the lawyers, right? Plaintiffs' lawyers and defense lawyers. I don't trust any of them. But guess what? We don't have to trust them if we're flying the plane. They're like a passenger on our plane because we know what we're doing. When you hire a law firm and think they're going to protect your industry, look at Remington Firearms, biggest firearms manufacturer in the country. They thought they went bankrupt and settled a claim in the same claim, right? And this, the lawyers are suing you. If you settle so you don't go bankrupt. That's their threat. Correct. Is that we're going to take your stuff, everything you own. So a lot of people get intimidated and settle bullshit claims, which I believe Remington did the worst of anybody, and it just didn't ruin them and take them into bankruptcy. It affected the whole firearms industry, which has a target on its back for different reasons than trucks, right? Trucks aren't hated like, we can't have trucks. Firearms are hated to the extent where certain people just don't want them, right? They want to change the Constitution and make it illegal and be like other people. And thank God that, I think, again, that's something that I don't see it ever going, changing here, like in the UK and stuff where you can't own firearms. It might get more difficult where, like with suppressors, you have to register them. But if you want a suppressor, go get them. It's not like you're a spy if you want a suppressor. I want a suppressor because when I'm shooting at the shooting range, it hurts your ears, right? And if you ever did use it without hearing protection, which if you were being attacked or something and had to protect yourself, the silencer protects you without having to put, earplugs in or ear protection on. So,
Well, I'll give you another example. Is you find it a coincidence that you issue a geo policy in I don't know, let's say anywhere in the country, and then they say, well, we're going to give you $1 million per occurrence on limit of liability, a $2 million aggregate, but we're going to give you a $300,000 sublimit on assault and battery.
right.
So what are they really worried about?
Well, they would prefer to exclude assault and battery.
Why? Because that's the actual thing that can actually probably happen.
Right.
So are they a good partner, or are they just selling you a quote with a sublimit, and when you actually look at it, you're saying, well, I'm getting a cheaper rate. No, you're not. You're actually getting $300,000 worth of coverage for assault and battery.
Right.
And there's a good possibility, especially now, I would, I think the tort reform has helped us in Florida a little bit, right? I mean, I think there's some good stuff there, but I think the insurance companies are also looking at the fine print and kind of just like, all right, here, we're just going to create a sublimit because.
So, in the actual, to me, that's a way that, they say, we're not doing assault and battery, or we're not doing firearms.
Then don't write it.
So they give you a sublimit so that you don't have to go buy a separate policy, which is really what they want you to do, but you can't find it. So they give you a sublimit. So when I sue you and it's a restaurant and the altercation or, the over-serving before the assault and battery is the GL policy.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So if you exclude it, you're like, oh, we don't have to cover that, but that's a bad partner because you're insured enough without it. So when you give them 100,000 limit, your thought process is, oh, well, we'll cap it at 100,000. Well, you think the lawyers are going to let you do that?
No.
They're going to say you have a limit on assault and battery of $100,000.
And then we're going to go after you personally.
But you have other exposure here too. So under the GL, we have $1 million limit. You cap assault, but it doesn't help you. What it does is it creates more arguments and more lawyers. So my approach is same limit, same everything, just like with flood and wind and property. We're not going to talk about stupid shit.
Yeah.
We're going to say we're covering you.
Correct.
We don't care what the hell their allegation is, right? Assault and battery, sexual abuse and molestation. We have $1 million limit, or we have 10 million limit, and we'll deal with it. We're not trying to avoid it. We're not trying to say there's a sub-limit and then sue each other over, well, where does that limit start and where does the other one stop?
It makes
you'd have some people argue, okay, you got the $1 million limit, and then you have the 100,000, which is separate on top of that. So now you have a $1.1 million limit. Mm-hmm. Even if the policy was written clearly, that's the way they can argue with you more. And, so is it another 100,000? No, we're capping this claim at $100,000. We don't have GL and assault and battery. Bullshit, dude. Why are you creating all of these potential gaps like you want to help the linebacker sack your quarterback every play?
I'll tell you why. Because they don't give a shit about the client, Rick.
It's
the truth, and it's what. Listen to me. It's the one thing that nobody's willing to say. A lot of retailers want to be politically correct and diplomatic. And listen, I know how to play that game too, right? But at the end of the day, you have a fiduciary responsibility to make sure that your client is covered.
Okay, but to actually fulfill a fiduciary responsibility, you have to understand the game
and
right?
the system.
The fourth quarter, how you get through the legal system, and people don't care about that
because they don't understand
the insurance. Well, but if you're a good person, like you and me, if you don't understand it, you figure it out because it's affecting you and your clients.
No, I'm talking about the customer. The insurance companies know exactly what they're doing.
No, but you should tell, again, producers should tell their insureds what they need to hear. It should be like, dude, if you want me to compete with stupid, right, I can't do it unless, I'm going to set you up so that when you sue me, I'm going to be able to go to court and say, I offered you everything, and you declined this, and you declined this, and you declined this. And then when you sue me, I'm going to kick your ass. But that doesn't help either of us. We're both wasting our time instead of winning the game.
I'll tell you another thing that's happening, Rick, and I think in my professional humble opinion, and as I look at my 20-year career, I remember that when I didn't really know what I was doing, right? And thank God I just happened to be in the right places where I got to learn and meet some really good people and get coached and ask questions and whatnot. But there's also a major problem that nobody's talking about, right? That I don't think people understand how it affects the system. When you see the mergers and acquisitions, right, and you're seeing the bankers take over the insurance industry, the retail game, you know, all they want to do is hire a bunch of guys and put them in a nice suit and tie. And the first thing they'll ask you in your interview is, what are your centers of influence, right? Because they want to make sure, right, that, hey, if I hire you and I put you on some draw or I put you on some salary, right, can you put me in front of so-and-so? So a lot of these guys, right, they're never properly trained. They don't know what the hell they're doing. All they do is open a door, and then they just hand off the football, right, to the terrorist.
I know a guy like that.
Okay? So then they come in, right?
I know a couple guys.
And then they really don't know, right? They're not being trained. And then all of a sudden, you know, you never know. Unfortunately, it's like an athlete, right? Like I always say a hitter, right? A hitter, right? In any sport, you want to have good fundamentals, right? You know, if a guy's taking a swing in a bad way and he's done it 10,000 times, he's got to now do it 20,000 times to break that bad habit. And a lot of these guys are walking into meetings again, and they really don't know. And the root is they're so caught up on commission. They're so caught up on the fear. Am I going to get fired? Am I not going to meet my numbers? You know, and the world of the investment world, right? Because it's all about how we're going to flip the pancake. Are we going to go public? Are we going to go do this? Are we going to do that? And all of a sudden, you've shifted the eyes of a producer. You've taken his eyes away from the customer to what's in it for me.
Right.
You and I are no different than a guy serving a cheeseburger at a restaurant.
Right.
I mean, we're in the service business, and some of us, retailers, and we talk about it, you're overpaid.
Right.
Let's be real, dude. Like, I don't know if there's a better industry other than sports entertainment that pays like insurance, right? So why everybody's taking their eyes off the customer, right? The customer's tired of being at dinner and talking about, oh, I sold my practice, or you know, we're gonna do this and we're gonna go this. Dude, like that's all great and dandy for you, but at the end of the day, I've got a business to run, and how are you gonna help me minimize losses so that I can maximize profitability? And in return, I want to fucking pay less money. Right. And you know, I tell people, you only pay less money when you get to create a little bit more skin in the game. You find a partner that doesn't put you into this massive risk pool where you're just like, no matter what you do, dude,
you're losing.
You're just going up and down with the market. So it's not like about your performance. That's a lie.
So let me
you know, I get passionate about it because I'm just, you know,
context here. So real estate, or you know, I never thought of it before, but athletes, people who manage athletes, right? So let's say, you know, real estate, you buy a house and they get their commission, and it goes up in value, and you know your commission goes up because you sell it when it went up in value.
Correct.
Same with an athlete, right? If Fernie goes and plays and he's star, so he gets more money, the agent gets more money.
Correct.
But it's a win-win. In insurance, you know, like big hotels, like the one I insured in Fort Myers, premium went from $700,000 to $2 million. All right. So the insurance company, I'm taking a risk that nobody else will at that point. And the insured is paying more than they ever paid before. So we're both, you know, bleeding more, right, potentially. And I did have 2 claims, so I lost money on that account. The insurance agents are the lucky winners, the insurance producers. They win when everybody else does worse.
Correct.
Right?
If
I got paid on your house, I sold for $10 million, and it goes down in value, and I sell it again, I don't make more money, right? My fortunes follow your fortunes. The insurance business is the business where the distribution side, all of that money, even health insurance, right? You look at the underwriting process and all the bullshit that goes on, and you know all the money spent doing that. And then once you get your policy, They tell you, oh, that we don't pay for that. That's excluded. You can't do that. All of that costs a lot of money, right? My approach is we can just cover everything, right? And we'll save money because you don't do all of this worthless processing up front. I mean, that to me, that should be the easy part with technology. Again, I type policies on a typewriter. And now, we should put it in once and all of it should flow through all of our systems. But every distribution link has their own system that doesn't talk to other systems. And still today, I get called, do you have an agency system? Do you have an MGA system? Do you have a claim system? Do you have a CRM system? And people are investing in that in their little unit. And I know, as my dad was a wholesaler, and he's retired now, still works at the house a little bit. But bottom line is they all have their own system. They're all invested in their own phone system. They're all, and it's layer on top of layer on top of layer of everybody doing the same thing, right? And that's what I've tried to bring to the table. And you know this because when we do our underwriting, we talk with the insured. When we bind them, we talk with the insured. When we do risk management, we talk with the insured. And all of it can be done, change your driver, send it to us directly, and we copy the producers involved. The producers don't like that, right? They want to keep it going the old way, which to me creates more liability because when you don't make the changes, and I've had it, it doesn't get made till a week later and the tow truck's involved in an accident during that week and the agent got it on Friday and went home instead of taking care of their client because, they're not really worried about the fine print. Me and the insured, we're the ones that should be communicating directly, even on claims. We have a ICE facility right now that had a detainee die and two of the other detainees were in the New York Times and basically said they witnessed it. And, they're all just trying to stay here. And the bad guys are trying to help them, because they're witnesses. You can't deport them now. Well, why? Because an illegal criminal unfortunately got caught and died. And so I don't even know why he has rights. He's here illegally. It's like passing laws, seatbelt laws, right? You don't wear your seatbelt, you're not supposed to be able to sue. So when they sue, we should fight it and enforce the law, but nobody does that. Same with, wrongful arrest. Like when I got wrongfully arrested in Chicago, every lawyer told me I couldn't sue because of immunity. If I was in a wheelchair, they wouldn't have said that because it's a big number. But since I'm not really damaged in their minds, I don't make a plaintiff that they would like. They want you in a wheelchair, or they want you to be a little old lady with gray hair that the trucker hit, and they're sizing everything up, just like the agents who don't give a shit. You want cheaper insurance, and so when I tell all my people, look, just ask people what they want. You want good insurance? You want a partnership? You want to play the long game? Or do you want the cheapest insurance? If you want the cheapest insurance, I don't even want to waste 1 minute with you because you're not being intelligent in a way that I can make you happy, right?
And it's funny because I actually think in many cases Prime is actually competitive.
Well,
I mean when you actually see what you're getting for what you're paying, we're actually a competitive market. I think Prime, in some of the wholesale markets and some of the retail markets, because of your approach and the way that you've always managed the business, because you've been putting your money on the risk, on the line, they've kind of either misunderstood or miscommunicated that. And
I know, but
I'm here today because we've had success,
right?
And I've seen you. You're the only guy, at least, or insurance company that I've done business with, and I've done business with a lot of them. And a lot of them, are the big corporate companies, and they do a good job, and I've got friends there. And this is not about bashing anybody, right? Everybody runs their business the way they want to run it. But I can tell you with a straight face today, you're the only company that I've actually seen reward good insureds. Like, hey, you perform better, we can reward that, right? You're actually underwriting people. So you're taking a traditional way of doing business, right? And yet you've evolved to understand data, metrics. Yeah, you have all that stuff here. It's not like, you have your own stuff that you depend on, but you've never, it's like a scout. I was talking to my buddy about this the other days, I got a good friend of mine. He works in the front office with the LA Dodgers, right? And he played 19 years in the major leagues. I have another good friend of mine who was, he's very successful in the financing business, specifically with Fannie, Freddie, and HUD. Prior to that, he was a really good scout with the Cincinnati Reds, right? And both of them are scouts, right? And I'm a scout. We're always scouting for business. We're scouts, right? Who's a good shortstop? Look at his body language. How does he act under pressure? Does he run down the line? When things are not going well, that tells you a lot about a human being.
Right.
And, the one thing is you've been able to identify, who the good partners are, right? And you can't do that. There isn't a robot in the world or an AI tool that can actually have a pulse on the human spirit, right? You have to be able to identify a good baseball player, right? Because there's the guy, Rick, that metrically, he's a 5'-tool guy. He's 6'4", he runs a 6'6", 60. He's got he throws a ball from right field to third on a dime. He's got power, he can hit for average. But he has no guts when the game's on the line.
Right.
So that guy is saying, hold on a minute. Do I want a guy who hits 270 with 25 home runs? But guess what? I want this guy, right? He may not have, he's a 3-tool guy, but my God, man, he grows a sack when things are, on the line.
He runs
or do I want a guy who's a 5-tool guy, but when the game's on the line, let's grab the metric. He's 0 for his last 50, doesn't even swing at good pitches because he's frozen up there, and he's just afraid to fail.
Right.
Well, it's the same concept. I'd rather have a guy who's a 280 guy, hits 25 jacks, right?
Right.
But man, that guy is going to run down the line. He's going to give you a hustle double. He's going to tell you, Rick, you know what? I want to fight. And at the same time, he's going to call you and say, Rick, I'm so sorry. We messed up.
Right.
We're human.
Right.
On this, God forbid, accident, we're negligent. I didn't mean to do it. And then that's part of insurance. We're all factoring, right? It's a game of factor. It's a game of probability.
I mean, to me, it's
and
do
I just
the
don't
right
see that,
thing. Do the right thing early on, and that's the partnership, right? If I'm a Lloyd syndicate and I appoint an MGA and a TPA, and then the claim gets reported, how serious are they taking it? They have no skin in the game. I'm not saying they're all, but if you're Sedgwick or one of these big claims managers, I know the problems of running a business.
Yeah.
They have a hard time keeping consistent claims people, right? You have people that don't want to do it your way, or they don't get a sense of urgency. And, again, lawyers are 24/7, 365 a day. That's one of my pet peeves is, we had a claim this weekend at the ice facility. They're calling me on Saturday. We have to respond with the game we're in. You can't sit around on weekends and nights and not respond when the plaintiff's lawyers are out there coming at you. That's their advantage is we're playing a different game. So, I don't play the game the way anybody else does. We're serious, we're focused. When, you're not really involved in the game, you're sitting on the sidelines collecting money, and you won't take skin in the game. And that's, as you know, one of my big, issues with producers is I don't pay them as much commission up front, and I want them to earn on the profit sharing on the back end. We all win when we win. When insured's prices double, I don't pay them the full commission. So they don't like that, right?
Yeah.
The one guy with Assured Partners in Gallagher, premium was $2 million. Before that, it was $700,000, so he got $70,000. $2 million, he thinks he's going to get $200,000. And I said, dude, nobody will quote this. I'm giving them risk share, no deductible. This is like a godsend for them. It's a good deal. I'm not paying you more than $100, right? And I'll pay you the other $100 after we've made money and didn't have any storms. Well, we had 2 storms. And again, it was a learning experience with this producer. And, he gets it more now because he understands that I lost money and he brought me the business. Obviously, if they wouldn't have had the claims, he would be saying, you should have paid me $200, and I will after it's profitable.
Yeah.
So again, it's you have to evolve, just like Sears Roebuck and Kodak said. We don't have to evolve. We're the know-it-alls. We're the guys that run the world, and Amazon crushed them, right? And Amazon has to keep evolving, or the next guy will crush them. So the insurance business, no matter how good we are, and I think we're as good as you can be, but we can make mistakes. But good partners communicate, and you fix the mistake, you learn from it, and you move forward.
Yeah.
Or you're a shitty partner and you throw your so-called partner under the bus, you abandon them and you go do something else. Like California homeowners and anybody that has a lawsuit. In most cases, that's the end of your insurance, and that's proof that most people know they got crappy insurance, because you ask them, why don't you report your claims, and they'll tell you honestly, because they'll cancel me or they'll change my rate. So anyway, we're here in Utah. Fernie and I have known each other a long time. I think that we've worked enough together to know what's going on. Fernie played baseball, if you don't know it. He's an athlete, and I played hockey, and long time ago I might have been a half an athlete. But I think competition, strategy, partnership, teamwork, everything to me relates to the playground and sports. You can run your adult life like that. Don't let the courts intimidate you. Don't let them make up new terms to scare you, like legal hellhole. You can't win here. That's what they say about Miami-Dade. It's stupid.
I learned through that. That's all intimidating factors, and that's all a bunch of nonsense. That, again, the root is always fear. It's like I was reading this morning, the potential damages of this winter storm coming could be $1.5 billion. They're just pumping out information to scare the crap out of you. How do we know it's going to be $1.5 billion? Why? Half the stuff ain't even going to be covered. So you just see the system embedded and rooted in fear, and it's just like, dude, the world continues to evolve. It's like when people, Florida is going to be underwater. Well, why is everybody moving? Why are the richest people in the world or in the country moving to Florida? If they actually but if they were, I think they're successful, and that's why they're investing.
Al Gore, Obama, all the ones that were pushing it, they would go by on the top of a mountain, not on the coast where they bought.
Well, some of those guys have beachfront homes. I don't think they're too worried about that.
They all do. Yeah.
But going back to the system is rooted in fear, embedded in fear, and it's taking his eyes away from the client. Insureds nationwide they're just tired. They're tired of the extra process, the extra step. I told you on the way here, clients just want to run their business and not worry about this crap and not get involved in the insurance drama and all of the nonsense and all the noise that comes with it, right? They just want to, they want a real partner. They want their claims handled. And a lot of them, in my experience, man, they want to do the right thing, but they're just tired of people telling them they can do the right thing and not being rewarded for it. It's like I go back to being an athlete. Imagine, that, you're a great athlete and you happen to hit the ball a lot and your batting average goes up. Well, I just think the owner's probably going to pay you more money because you're more valuable to the company.
Right.
But how am I going to pay the guy who doesn't get the job done, who doesn't move runners over, he doesn't get RBIs, or he doesn't score goals or touchdowns? Right. Why am I going to pay that guy more money? I need somebody to explain to me why I should pay you more money if you don't produce.
Right.
And I think what happens on the commission aspect of it, and I think you and I first started at 5% and you went up to 10, was I had to prove to you, because I invested my dollars back at JAG, right? I'm proud of that. We went out and said, you know what, we're not going to be like everybody else, right? We did it the right way. We invested dollars in risk management. We went out and we did the right thing, right? Because we knew that was best for our clients. And I'm going to be forever grateful to that. And I'm so proud of that. And that's why we disrupted the market. And that's why we had good clients, right? But the overall system, right? The big conglomerates and the big, nobody, again, understands how valuable it is to bring. It's so stupid and it's so easy that I don't get it. It's just like focus on bringing solutions to your clients.
Right.
Don't bring them problems. And then pricings can be negotiated. Sometimes it makes sense and sometimes it doesn't, and that's fine. But you know, Rick, we can talk about this for another 4 hours, right? The one thing I'm excited about is I've always believed in your approach. It's so common sense. It's not blurry. It's not like, you know, we were talking about process, right? Like there's not like all these other factors where things get complicated. I'm like, dude, this, like, we can probably solve this in 1 or 2 conversations.
Right.
What happened? Give me the information and we'll handle it. Like, stop stressing out. You know, this is why you're paying us for, right? And I think producers, you know, the system has them so blinded, right? In commission, and the clients are not dumb. They start to feel it. The smart one's like, dude, like, are you giving me the best product, or you're just, you know, giving me some cookie cutter crap and kind of hiding that other quote over here, and you're not really telling me, dude, in reality, this is a little bit more expensive, and in some cases, it's even, you know, even more competitive. But this guy pays me 15%, and this guy pays me 10%. Dude, listen to me. Here's the deal. I've been in the belly of the machine. Nobody can bullshit me. I know how the game is played, right? So I've made a living my whole life by doing the right thing for the customer. And the minute you start to see, oh, hold on a minute, I'm in an environment where everybody's taking their eyes off the customer, do you know what that does to your long game? It hangs you.
Right.
It's like career suicide.
Right. They want you to ruin.
You're gonna
your
just ruin it because you're gonna walk,
reputation.
and all you have is your reputation.
Right.
And the ecosystem that I live in, it's trust and loyalty.
Right.
When you're insuring the top family offices, you know, I'm not in that game no more, right? Obviously, but when you're doing that and you're representing clients, your trust and your word is all that you have, and you can work your entire life, and it takes one bad thing to ruin that whole thing. Right. And if you allow the pressure of the system to compound you and try to beat you down and take your eyes off who don't forget, your clients brought you to the dance. They brought you to the dance. Your wealth was created because of your clients. Right. So you know what? Thank them. Do what's always best for them, not for you. If you're
you're a fucking troublemaker, dude.
No, I'm not.
You won't go with the herd.
I'm not, because I'm not a sheep.
You and me are troublemakers because we can't not, you know, you can't treat people, you know, and again, if you switch positions with them, you wouldn't do that because you'd be screwing yourself.
Correct.
But this whole system is set up to make all the brokers that, you know, like you, that had your own business, you did it right, you're being sucked up into this machine and you're just being forced to go along with it. And, you know, I'm happy because it proves me right? I've been saying this forever, that insurance is stupid, and I think I'm common sense because I'm stupid, right? I'm not a highly educated person. I didn't go to the Wharton School of Business, and all these guys I'm competing against went to some big school, and I can't even apply for a job at these companies because I don't have the pedigree. But I don't need it, and again, you luckily now are somebody that I can work with, right? Because you were successful, you got, you know, sucked into the bigger machine, and you refused to do it the way that they want you to.
You know what, Rick? And again, everybody has a right to do what they want to do with their life. You know, I gotta sleep with myself at night, and I'm the one who has to put my head on the pillow. And you know, I tell my kids, and I told you today, like I tell Olivia and Sean this all the time. No one owes you shit, right? Here's what I know for a fact. I'm never gonna sell my soul and take away my eyes from the people who put me here. You got to remain humble. And greed takes that away. Right? And you know what? My clients are my friends. They're people that I love, people that I trust, people that have put their trust in me. And if you can't value that, if you don't value the fact that somebody's actually trusting you, you've already missed in life. There's not $1 for trust. You can't pay for trust. Right? That's just like a life virtual. It's deep, right? It means something. I trust you. I can talk to you. I just think that we're in the service business. It's what I love and excites me is there's so much money to be made in this business by just doing it the right way. This is not rocket science. We're not trying to land, insurance in Mars. You want to, I don't know. I don't think we're trying to insure people on Mars. I know.
Not yet. Not yet. But hey, I didn't think I would insure the Rolling Stones concert
I know,
during
but
COVID either.
But what I'm trying to say is it just goes back down to do what's best for the customer, understand the customer, his clients, his needs, their people's needs, right? Because a lot of times you work with the higher ups where you really have to make the process simplified and smooth for the people who work that account, every single day, CFOs, controllers, asset managers. Those are the people that are in the weeds, right? And you have to make their life easy because, they've got their responsibility and their pressures and they got to focus on growing their business. That's what they get paid to do, Right. Got a good buddy of mine, love him to death. He's got one thing, he's got to look for deals.
Right.
And he's got to make sure that, we're spending money properly. I'm being a fiduciary to the family that I represent. And that happens everywhere, right? Whether it's a family office, whether you're hired, at Wendy's, it doesn't really matter. We're in the service business. It's not that complicated. It's having an approach, it's having a plan, and it's believing in it. And if I do believe, and I've told you this 100 times, if the leadership that you're trying to ensure doesn't believe in that, then we're not a fit.
Well,
and that's okay. But when they'll know? When their insurance premium goes through the roof and they're calling saying, I'm going to be run out of business. Well, dude, the only person to blame is yourself. Because if you're a business and you actually care about people risk first. You got to take care of your employees. How do I make sure that my property manager is being safe or my truck driver isn't texting and driving? And, my dump truck that's hauling sand and gravel is laying over, its net over and making sure that, before we're dispatched at 5:30 in the morning and I'm driving down the Florida Turnpike, that I'm not going to go out and, God forbid, not be prepared. And what I want to do, Rick, is there's such a demand in all 50 states and all of North America for the people that want to do it the right way. And I will say this till I'm blue in the face. There isn't a better damn insurance company in the country to represent those people than Prime. And I'm not saying that because I'm here in front of you. Because you know me, I don't care. You and I have earned this. I was a retailer. I've experienced it. My clients have experienced it.
Right.
They thank you. They call you. My risk, the people who are involved, they have the knowledge. Like, man, these people know what they're doing, and they actually care. So I commend you guys for that.
We, since the day we met, I think again we agree on the fact that we want to do it the right way. We have to because it's in our blood. We can't help everybody. We can't help the people who want cheap insurance and they don't care about the fine print or the exclusions because that's where you get in fights with them. So it should be really easy for us to go forward and agree what the goals are. Right? It's like getting married or anything. What are the goals, right? And as long as you have agreement there and you can execute through it, we have people we can help. I don't want to go into any market and compete with stupid, just like the Rolling Stones, right? That was an opportunity that, people would say you're stupid, you don't know that business, you've never done it. I didn't do a lot of it, but I did it at the most important time to the Rolling Stones. They're the ones who couldn't get what they needed. And, that's all they want.
I was in that flight with you, and I'll never forget when, I think it was Mick Jagger, one of them said to you, hey, we appreciate this and we're going to come through. And you said, hey, and I'm going to be the first guy that's going to cut you a check if it goes wrong, but I'm willing to take a risk. Right? But all I need is to know is like, are you going to leave me hanging and out to dry? And then vice versa. Right. We're not going to leave you out hanging to dry. And, we don't live in the world of...
We insured Al Sharpton during COVID, who, again, Democrat, Republican, there's good and bad in everything. And, my deal with him was I wanted him to understand that, I don't think you want to ruin Martin Luther King's day.
Absolutely
right?
not.
You're trying to promote him, and it's sad that your normal insurer at the time when you really need him won't cover you. But this is real simple. If something happens and you're at fault, you didn't do something right, we're going to pay. And if you didn't do anything wrong, I need to know you're going to want to fight because I'm not like everybody else. I don't want to pay people money that are just shooting arrows at you thinking your insurer's going to pay when they shouldn't.
Correct.
And again, so we had a meeting of the minds and we go forward. But I want to, you know, tell everybody that, you know, as I move around the country and built this Prime since 95 as an insurance company, I look for people that, you know, would be good teammates and good partners here at Prime. And so luckily, Fernie sold Jag, which I actually told him not to, but, you know, that's just another reason why, you know, we have a good relationship. And so he, you know, we have principle, right? He has a non-compete. He's not doing anything in Florida, right? But we're making him, you know, focused, and the title will be announced, but, you know, it's the head or president of high net worth, and it's, you know, going after the accounts in the other 49 states that he's an expert in, right? The habitational, family office, high net worth people. And we're looking to work and identify, not exclusive, but, you know, platinum, whatever we end up calling it, select few agents in every state that we want to, you know, work together like Fernie and I have worked
and
together.
partner with. We want to partner with. There's good ones out there, right?
We need missionaries out there spreading the word that say, you know, you don't have to put up with this, and it's not going to be cheaper than what you're paying. But if you look at the claims and the claims results and you do real math of how the poor execution affects, you know, cancellations and finding a new carrier, all the bullshit that, you know, adds costs that nobody does what I call true math. You know, if you pay $5 million on a claim that you should have paid zero on, yeah, we spent $300,000 to win, but in Florida now we get that back.
Yeah.
But you have to go pursue it. It's not like they just write you a check. When we lose, we just write them a check, right? When they lose, we have to go chase them forever. Yeah. And, you know, the lawyers know how to play the game, and they're protecting their client. Can you imagine being a lawyer that says, I'm going to get you $5 million and you get them zero?
Again, I can talk about this all day long. I know that we're on a time thing, but, you know, the funny thing about lawyers is they usually meet the client right after the fact. So I'm like, do you really know your client, or you're just kind of being reactive to what he or she is saying? You know, we've been in bed with this client for a long time. So anyhow, look, Rick, it's exciting. I think there isn't a better time ever. I mean, I'm telling you, I feel it. I saw it. I've been seeing it for over a year. I've been saying, oh God, like there's going to be a demand unlike ever before for our high net worth clients to find the real partner, because they're just tired of the BS. They're tired of the insurance drama that comes along with all of the nonsense in the system. Clients want to grow their business, have a real partner, and
they want peace of mind.
They want peace of mind, man. They just,
you
know, and that's it. For them, it's, you know, how can I help save money? How do I get the right partner? And man, you know what? They're going to be our best referral sources. You know why? The kingdom, I always say, your recruiters is your locker room, right? Your clients are your best recruiters. Your producers are your best recruiters. And when you know, the good producers aren't worried about 5%, 7%. You know what they're worried about? I want to write new business. And then eventually, as you prove, right, all that becomes negotiable, right? But if you're going to operate just like every other company because somebody upstairs in the C-suite is telling you, well, we got to do this, or we're going to, you know, it's like, I'm going to get on the phone with X company and I'm just going to roll all this book over this guy. Why are you doing that? This company's like, that's just this is what nobody sees. Now the customer has no idea why he's getting a new insurance company, he's calling you, and they don't know all the behind the scenes. And I'm like, dude, everybody again took their eyes off of the customer.
Right.
And they made it about themselves.
Well, so we had Tristan Ham on, and, you know, he was talking about the boxing, how it's fixed and there's agreements to, you know, not fight hard. And you got it in basketball. You got the NBA players making millions of dollars doing it for $35,000. I mean, it just amazes me that people will do stupid stuff.
Yeah.
right? And no, that's again, you can do business with them or you choose not to, but you can't overcome, even if it's the worst situation ever, a good partner and good friends on the playground, the guys who stick with you through thick and thin. They say, everybody says, I'm ride or die, I'm ride or die. Well, most people that say that aren't ride or die. And if you look back in their history, they're fleers. They run away from it. So again, I'm a lucky enough guy to have seen this opportunity in the early 80s, had this, just in my bones, I knew I had to have my own insurance company or I could never do it.
And how many times have I called you off the record? And I'm like, I'm so tired of this, like,
right, being squoze. It's a shit
man,
sandwich.
it's just like, dude,
and
I just
you're in
want
the
to take
middle.
care of my client, and then you're not in control. And I got to a point where I was like, dude, like I'm not, I want to take care of the customer. I want to be and listen to me. I'm not afraid to have tough conversations. Right. You got to be able to do that, right? And you know what? Good CEOs and good clients and people actually respect when you're man enough to show up and say, hey,
Right.
since this is going to be a tough one.
Own it.
But guess what? I'm not abandoning ship, right? I'm not running from the fire.
Right.
I'm here
Right.
delivering the good news, the bad news, and that's what they like. But when they see the insecurity and they see a little bit of like what's really happening here. So anyhow, Rick, we'll end it with this.
We're proud to announce that Fernie's now working at Prime, and you'll see, press releases, and he's going to be traveling to all the different offices and working with the team to bring, more of a focus to communicating our message and opening us up to, good partners. I mean, all of the current people we do business with, insureds, brokers, agents, we want to continue to do it. But I'm worn out trying to get you to join my religion, right? The insurance preacher wants you to be on board, and most producers out there are anything but on board. They're following the old system. They're just peddling the same old stuff. Nobody's, in Florida, they just keep doing the same thing over and over again. The definition of doing the same thing over and over again and expecting it's just going to keep being a shit show. And the lawyers are getting rich, and now California's proving it's just not a coastal thing. It is going to come to a state near you. So our goal is to get ahead of the ball, educate people, and, again, say, quit looking at the dollar and get value, right? People who buy good stuff that lasts over the long time, you take care of it, it's cheaper. People who buy cheap stuff and, you can't keep up with the maintenance and, it spins out of control. So, again, you don't want an insurance company that's saving money, right? Like when I need my insurance company, I want the best lawyer. I want to win. If I'm right, I'll hire 2 lawyers to win. I'll spend more money because that's an investment in the next 10 years. Just like when you settle a claim that you shouldn't, it's an anchor for the next 10 years.
And by the way, half these carriers are settled. They know they're doing the wrong thing.
Well, but they're listening to a lawyer and some outsourced guy. But, we have the start of, a good thing here. And, again, I'm grateful that it's happening at this time. I don't think there could have been a better time if, I would have tried to steal you or convince you to come to work here 5 years ago. It wouldn't have been as good because, again, you learned a lot. You saw a lot that you wouldn't have seen or learned.
We did a lot of great stuff that I'm proud of. I learned a lot of stuff, what to do, what not to do. And I think it's prepared me for this next chapter, right? And I'm more, to say that I'm excited is an understatement.
Right. So we're excited too.
So
all of us,
I appreciate it,
including Parker. He think all my kids are like
Parker just wants
good,
to know. He just wants to know.
Fernie can help mellow the insurance.
Yeah, Fernie and my brother.
That's
maybe.
my job. But I just want to say thank you, Rick. I appreciate you and your family. I've gotten to know you. I spent some intimate time with you, and I just know your heart. I know that you can be misunderstood, because so was my dad, right? My dad's a tough dude, call him the general, but if he's not like that, that's when things get a little things, the wreck happens, and we're just trying to avoid the wreck. And sometimes, it can be miscommunicated or the tone, but the intention behind the tone and the heart behind the tone is authentic. It's genuine, and that's why you've been in business for 40 years. And
well,
not,
we're going to keep trying to do our best.
Yep.
And I know with you on our team, it'll help us. It'll help good producers. It'll help good insureds and the other people that are faking. We can't help. And
yeah,
we want to try.
We're not going to.
So we're not going to compete with stupid.
No.
If you don't want to live in reality, then we can't help you. But if you want to know what you're not covered for and how to have an offense and do the right thing, when you're not at fault, we fight and we win. When you're at fault, we admit it and we do the right thing. We don't waste people's time. We bench the lawyers, which is, if you do it right, you could bench the lawyers like on 80 to 90% of all the litigation that goes on.
Yeah.
And, I know too much about this business, but I'm telling you, it's really stupid.
Yeah.
And, it's like Doge going into the government and finding all of this waste. It's just because you build on top of stupidity and you hire more people and you keep growing, and the execution gets worse and worse. And if you started with a clean sheet, if you said, look, let's forget everything and do something the new way, right, the best way, don't stop doing shit the way you did it because that's the way we've done it forever, that's not a good answer. And that's really what, I think we've talked about while you've been here is we want to review everything, and again, my pet peeves, I've been saying them for 5 years, but I'm trying to get people to change bad habits and see the future, and that's difficult for people to do, right? So we spend a lot of time pushing paper around before we've ever talked to the insured, who's, to me, we need to talk to the insured because I really can't underwrite you until we agree what the goals are, right? And so, hopefully this will all be better because we have a better understanding, and you, with your background, I think, will help me communicate to our team that, look, these are real simple things where we can impress the people we want to impress, good partners, and not waste our time on people that, we know aren't going to be good partners because it's too different. They don't want to share or be honest, right? If you've had claims, that's not a bad thing, right? If you learn from it and you have a good partner and we do the right thing, we're good. Yeah. But, everybody else looks at claims as a bad thing, and they are if you're not going to fix them, if you're going to keep doing the same thing, and set up the lawyers to sack you on every case. So think ahead of the ball. Again, it's sports and athletics, applied to business, common sense, applied to business. I think it's the smartest route. And again, I've been somewhat successful. I could have done a lot better. There's a lot of stuff I did wrong. I probably told too many people to fuck off.
Well, that's okay. I mean, I think, again, we all learn and we all move on, but
I am passionate, and when you tell me stupid shit and you keep repeating it over and over again and thinking I don't hear it, I heard it. I don't agree with it, and So anyway, I love the fact that you're here. Everybody's excited, and just stay tuned for news. But
I'm excited too, Rick. And can I say something? I think my family is listening.
Sure.
I just want to, I want to. First of all, I want to say thank you to my wife, who, I think when I resigned, she knows what that was like, and just having a support system like her that allows me to be here today and do what I do. Without her, I don't even know what I'd be doing. And my family for being supportive of this, and I'm just excited about the future. I'm excited about representing your family with the utmost class and professionalism, and I think that the future's bright, man. So I really appreciate it.
Well, you're gonna make us all better. So
I'm gonna do my best, Rick. That's for damn sure. Thank you.
Thanks, Fernie. We'll see you on the future episodes.
That's a wrap
I'm sure.
on the I Hate Insurance podcast. We just got to decide what Bernie's podcast is going to be.
Yeah, watch out. Fernie's podcast coming in strong soon.
Transition,
Fernie's getting
baby.
going.
That was great.